Welcome, and thank you for joining us. My name is Brett Felton, Regional Vice President for Agile Mind. Today, we will be introducing you to Agile Assessment, a supplemental math resource for grades 6 through Algebra 2, authored by the Charles A. Dana Center at UT Austin. This is a program being used by educators across the country to help monitor progress and identify needs of individual students and groups of students, especially in this year. Today, we will be discussing some of the key issues teachers are experiencing with student learning loss due to COVID and how those educators are working through the challenges with targeted, easy to use assessment tools. And then Abby Newmeyer, a Director of Professional Services supporting our partners in the Northeast, will give us a demo of the program and review and discuss a study completed by JEA and the Empirical Education Group on the effectiveness of Agile assessment in Providence Public Schools. For participating in today's webinar and filling out a short survey at the end, we are happy to offer your educators and students access to Agile assessment at no cost through March of 2021. Just a couple of notes to start. Attendees are muted, but we would be glad to share your questions. You can share your questions at any point. Please submit them in the question field in your GoToWebinar control panel. We will answer these at the conclusion of the webinar. For over 15 years, Agile Mind has collaborated with key research and development programs to provide quality teaching and learning resources in middle and high school math. We have core math programs from 6th grade through AP Calculus and Statistics. We also have programs of social emotional learning for students and educators, as well as an assessment platform, which we will be demonstrating today. Our key author for our mathematic programs is the Charles A. Dana Center at the University of Texas at Austin. The Dana Center is a research unit dedicated to ensuring that all students have the opportunity to thrive in school and are prepared for success in higher ed and the workforce, regardless of their economic circumstances. We all know that this year, educators and families are working hard to mitigate the effects of being out of the classroom and to create opportunities to learn, both at school and at home. However, recent studies of long-term consequences of the school closures are concerning. According to the Center of Research on Education Outcomes at Stanford University, it may take years to recover from the estimated learning loss resulting from the pandemic. Most importantly, the study found disadvantaged students are more likely to be at risk, further widening the achievement gap. For this reason, the need for rigorous student-level learning assessments has never been higher. This crisis requires strong diagnostic assessments and frequent progress checks in order to identify the varying learning needs of students. Agile assessment can help effectively and accurately identify learning gaps to ensure these are addressed, helping students progress in grade level content. So what does it look like? With Agile assessment, teachers have over 6,000 math items from grades 6 through Algebra 2, expertly aligned to standards, reading levels, and level of difficulty. The ability to create and schedule assessments for individuals of students and groups of students at the school or district level, real-time reports to identify progress and challenges by standards, and with the addition of supplemental resources from Agile Mind, diagnostic recommendations to review and repair gaps. Also with Agile Mind, teachers have access to virtual webinars and asynchronous learning modules, how-to videos, and online guidance to support their work in using assessments, analyzing data, and planning instructional follow-up. Educators we serve are using Agile assessment this year to inform and drive instruction with classes of students on a daily or weekly basis, to provide additional opportunities for individuals or small groups of students to review critical concepts and skills based on current or prior grade learning, and to engage in meaningful problem-solving tasks. Additionally, teachers can create, share, and administer common assessments at the school or district level, supporting the regular analysis of data. When Agile assessment is used in combination with Agile Mind supplemental learning materials or course programs, educators can quickly identify resources for differentiated learning, practice, and review. Now Abby's going to give us a look at the assessment tool itself. Abby?
Thank you, Brett. AgileMind is a browser-based system, meaning the assessments and resources for practice and review are made available through our learning management system. Let's start by logging in. Each user, whether a student, teacher, or administrator, receives a unique username and password. We offer blended programs and supplemental resources for teaching and learning, with both online and printable resources. For this school year, this means teachers and students can access all materials, whether they are in class or remote, and whether they are working synchronously with their class or asynchronously. In signing into the AgileMind system, we see a teacher's dashboard with important information to help manage learning for a class of students. We will come back to this page, but first, let's take a look at the assessment creation resources. Agile assessment includes a repository of close to 6,000 standards-aligned assessment items for grades 6 through Algebra 2. The flexible tools make it easy for educators to efficiently and effectively create assessments for additional practice, remediation of gaps in learning, extension opportunities for gifted learners, or interim progress monitoring. Agile assessment items are built and aligned to the standards students must master, as well as AgileMind learning resources and course contents to ensure consistency with instruction. Alignment by cognitive complexity and reading level enables the creation and modification of tests to address the needs of specific student populations. Filters and keyword searches allow for ease of use, so educators can build assessments based on their specific criteria for a variety of item types, cognitive complexity levels, and to control for reading level. For example, using Agile assessment, a teacher can create and schedule a test for their Algebra 1 class, assessing readiness for upcoming content, such as solving linear equations. Now let's take a look at an assessment created for a class of students. The assessments are administered online so that teachers and students benefit from the real-time reports. Assessments can also be printed and administered with paper and pencil if needed. Once a test is scheduled, it will appear for students on their dashboard on the designated date. Students simply click on the link and begin taking the test. Innovative technology-enabled items, drag and drop, short answer fill in the blank, graphing items, and open response questions provide varied, interesting, and game-like learning interactions that increase student motivation to engage in the task. These items enable you to assess levels of critical thinking and problem solving, requiring students to demonstrate understanding to the depth and rigor required by your standards. Test taking is supported on desktop and tablet devices, allowing students to take assessments inside or outside the classroom. Now let's take a look at the real-time data available to teachers and students. Teachers and students receive real-time data showing student progress and performance. The goal of the assessments is to give teachers data from which to design instruction that targets the needs of individuals and groups of students, particularly this year as they work to keep students on track and address gaps from unfinished learning. From this report, teachers can see how item performance on an assessment relates to the standards. After identifying a standard or item for which the class struggled, teachers can see whether it's the entire class that needs help on these concepts or whether it's a group of students or individuals who need more support. In this report, item 12 seems to have given students trouble. For those AgileMind users who have access to our course programs or supplemental learning resources from Agile Accelerator, the topic alignment directs the teacher to learning and practice activities that can be used to repair and reinforce gaps. As you can see, along with class-level reports, the teacher has reports showing data from assessments for all of his or her classes available online, as well as downloadable as an Excel file. There are also reports available for teachers on individual student progress. At this point, let's look at some data that we have on the impact of using Agile assessment. Empirical Education, an independent research group, studied the effectiveness of AgileMind's Agile assessment in Providence Public Schools, Rhode Island, during the 2016-17 school year. This study focused on students enrolled in Algebra 1 and examined the impact of Agile assessment usage on student performance, as measured by the Park Algebra 1 assessment. The study compared achievement for students in two groups. One group of Algebra 1 students who used Agile assessment and the other group who did not, adjusting for the differences in student characteristics. The district provided student data, including student demographics and Fall Star Math pretest and Spring Park outcome data. This data was combined with data from the Agile assessment system, including the time spent, problems attempted, and problems correct on 3 benchmark assessments delivered in November, January, and March. The researchers found a positive impact of Agile assessment for several student subgroups, including Hispanic students, students who qualify for free or reduced price lunch, and special education students. The result corresponds to a 12 percentile point gain on the Park Algebra 1 assessment, adjusting for differences in student demographics between Agile assessment students and comparison students. In other words, students who used Agile assessment performed better on the Park Algebra assessment than the comparison students. In addition, the average Agile assessment score was found to have a positive association with student outcomes on the Park assessment. Brett, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Abby, for giving us a look at Agile assessment. In addition to reports for teachers, administrators and students also have their own set of reports about district, class, and student level assessment results. Providence Public Schools found this to be extremely helpful in using this in their interim assessments in preparation for their end of course exams. Before we move on, I'll give you a minute to review this slide. Here are some key takeaways from what we've shared with you today. We are gratified to be helping mathematics teachers and students keep focused and on track in the midst of so many challenges this year. We do have a few questions that came in from the audience during the presentation. Thank you, Marilyn, for sending these over. I'll just go through them one by one. So a participant asked, can you give me more details on the trial till March? Sure. For attending the webinar and filling out the brief survey that'll come up at the end, we will load your students and teachers into our LMS platform and begin that trial as soon as we get those uploaded, and that will last through the end of March of next year, 2021. Can you give us some cost of the program after the trial is over? Sure. So before the trial ends, you can sign a contract for school year 21-22, so next school year, not pay until next school year, and continue your access to the end of this school year. The price per student is $10. Is access to the digital instructional resources a separate purchase from the assessment tool? Yes, Agile assessment can be acquired as a standalone assessment tool to track student learning progress relative to standards. Access to our high quality digital resource is an additional cost. We do offer a supplemental package that includes assessment and our core digital resources called Agile Accelerator, which supports addressing gaps across multiple grades. Today's demonstration showed a close-up of the assessment tool. If you'd like to see a demonstration of Agile Accelerator, we'd be more than happy to provide that to you. Just please send us an email. How does the program support differentiation? Good question. So Agile assessment items can be chosen by both reading level and DOK level, and then as well filtered again by standard. So you can get all sorts of different types of resources at different levels related to the standards. Teachers and leaders really tell us that they find this invaluable for differentiation with their students. How does how does the program coordinate with other curricula? So we found that many education systems have curricula that are strong in some standards and weak or without content for others. Equipping educators to pinpoint these gaps in coverage of standards helps make their choices, really their current curricular choice more successful. Tell me more about the professional support for teachers that will come with this program. Sure. Professional learning for Agile assessment is provided through an asynchronous virtual model with teachers. Leaders or groups of educators can access it whenever it's convenient for them. We also have options for live sessions, both virtual using Zoom in this virtual world we're living in, as well as face-to-face when that's kind of acceptable as we move forward. Here's a question on the study that Abby reviewed. Were the gains achieved at Providence just through targeted formative assessment? Yes, the study did show that the gains were because of the use of Agile assessment. The only difference in the test groups was the addition of having Agile assessment available for those students. Do you have any other examples of gains this large? We have other systems really of different sizes and shapes we've seen achieve some significant gains. Lubbock, Texas is one that comes to mind, and more than happy to share about additional information, probably more relevant to districts in your area of the country. So if you have a more specific question or want to let us know areas that you're interested in, please either send another question or we'll get an email from you as well. Great, we have another question. This is a little bit longer, but looks to be a great one. You mentioned that these assessment items align with standards and the core math courses. Can you explain more about how that works? For instance, we're looking to share formative assessments for multiple grades to determine learning gaps coming into January. What happens if we identify these as prior grade gaps? That's a great question. Let me take just a little time to answer it. The Agile assessment system has over 6,000 standards aligned items that can be used to really identify those learning gaps. Those gaps can then be addressed with either supplemental materials or your core math materials. In the case of Agile assessment, you can also add Agile Accelerator if needed to give your teachers access to our full curriculum across those multiple grade levels and use that as that supplemental model. Districts who are using Agile assessment coupled with Agile Accelerator are immediately able to pinpoint learning gaps and then exact learning materials and lessons that can be used to fill those needs. That includes not only the lesson content, but also supporting animations and activities that go along with it. With no more questions, this concludes our webinar today. We appreciate your attendance and interest. If you'd like to learn more, please email us or give us a phone call. Don't forget to complete the survey at the end of the webinar to gain access to Agile assessment through the end of March. If you submitted any questions that we were unable to answer, we'll make sure to follow up with you by email. From all of us at Agile Mind, thank you for all that you do with your students and communities during this incredibly difficult time. This concludes today's webinar. Thank you again for joining us and have a great day.